Welcome everybody to It Tastes Different Game Reviews. What we're reviewing today? Forspoken. Forspoken is an action RPG game in which players get to play Athia and its inhabitants, play in Athia and its inhabitants. It's a magical world full of parkour and spells and weirdly dressed witch ladies and many, many other things. It is published by Square Enix and developed by Luminous. Formerly a different name with Square Enix. I'll let Pat get into that because it's kind of interesting. It is a PlayStation 4 and 5 game only. Actually, I believe it's PlayStation 5 only. Yeah, it's I don't know really what else to say about it. So before I turn it over to Nick, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit those notifications, and now on with the show. Nick, what do you think about this game?
I was it's kind of interesting because I was one of the when this game first was shown off back a long time ago. I really wasn't that interested in it. And as it continued to be showed off, I really wasn't that interested in it. When the demo came out, I really wasn't interested in the demo. I played the demo and it really didn't land with me. So, but we were going to review this game. So I said, all right, we got it. And well, I really like this game. So, the demo didn't do it justice and the stuff before didn't do it justice, but online and through critics, it seems to be not doing so well, but I'm not sure why all the negativities around it, because I found the game to be pretty fun. I enjoyed the game. The commentary and stuff like that Faye and or Frey, the main protagonist, and the cuffs that you get at the beginning of the game, your partner in crime, their commentary between each other can get really repetitive, and some of the stuff she says, because she's from New York in the modern day, and she goes back to Athia, which is sometimes around Middle Ages maybe, or something like that. We don't really know, but they seem to be in the Middle Ages as far as technology and stuff like that. So she says certain things there that we would say nowadays that people don't understand. So it kind of comes off as being very cringy. But other than that, I like this game. I thought it was a lot of fun. The spells and everything, not to say this game doesn't have its faults, but the spells I thought were really cool. They had a nice variety of different spells that you'll get as you go throughout the game. The story isn't bad. It's not anything to write home about, but it's not a horrible story. I've definitely played a lot of RPGs that do have, that have bad stories, or a lot of games that have bad stories. And this game's not great, but it's not horrible either. It's just fine. It's almost kind of something that you would see on, not necessarily HBO, but maybe WB's older brother's channel or something like that. It's not quite WB, but it's not quite HBO on that sense. But the settings and everything look really nice. The graphics look really nice. Depending on what you want to play, we played on the PlayStation 5. I think this game is also on PC. It is a $70 game, and it's also $70 on PC, which is stupid, but whatever. It's what it is. What it is. The graphics look really nice in this game. As far as performance goes with this game, it's hit or miss depending on what you play on. I found that I do have a 120 hertz TV, so they do have an 120 hertz mode that you can turn on, and I found that I get the best performance with the game having the game in performance mode with 120 hertz turned on. That seems to get you the best stable performance in the game. If you go with quality mode or ray tracing mode, even with 120 hertz on, you're still going to have moments when it gets chaotic where you can definitely tell the frame rate's dropping. There were parts where the frame rate I could tell was going down. Right, it wasn't staying steady or dropping quite a bit. So I would say performance mode is the way to go if you want something a little bit more stable with this game. They could definitely do some work on trying to fix that. But the game is, I mean, it's a wide open area. It's very detailed in everything that's out there in the Forspoken world that you traverse in. But you get a lot of cool moves, a lot of acrobatics, being able to jump and lasso onto things and use your different magical powers and various effects of that nature. Lots of side quests too. This game is the Assassin's Creed this game, but it's not it's not as bad as Assassin's Creed. It's and I think it's not as bad because the side quests that are out there, they don't take very long to complete. So you can go there, complete them quickly, and then move on. You're not like sitting around and everything. Now, these are things out in the world that you can collect and stuff like that. They also do have side quests. The side quests there's not a lot of side quests in the game, and some of the side quests can be slow and take a little while to get through. And some side quests aren't that long. So it's kind of a mixture, but there's not a lot of side quests. One thing that this game does do that I don't like, that I thought was very annoying, is when you're doing a quest or you're doing some sort of anything where the game is trying to tell you something, the game will take away control, and it seems to take a long time before the game gives you control back. You'll be, your character will just be standing there, nothing's going on the screen, but the game hasn't given you control back. You're just kind of chilling there going, all right, can I start moving now? and so that's kind of an annoying thing, but it's more of an annoyance than anything. You just know you gotta wait a little bit and then it'll give you control back. Also, one thing that, I'm sure Patrick will probably go into more, that we talked about is you do get upgrades. You can upgrade your magic and upgrade your health and defense, and you can put various stats on your cloaks and your amulets. And there's a variety of cloaks and amulets that you can paint your nails too, and they have special abilities. But which is cool. I like the cool nail painting thing. It looks really cool because the cool thing about that is when you paint your nails, if you look at your character, they do have that painted on their nails, which is, I thought, was a really cool attention to detail. But the thing that sucks about it though is when you get new cloaks, because there's a ton, and new amulets, there's no point, at least what we found, there was no point in trading them out for new ones, because you put stats, build stats up into a certain cloak or into a certain amulet. And if you get a new cloak that you like better, maybe by design, because you can put, every cloak has abilities, but you can apply those abilities to any cloak. So it doesn't really matter. It's really more of look. But if you've taken a cloak and you're like, all right, I'm just going to upgrade this one, you've upgraded a lot, and then later on you get a new cloak that you like, well, then you have to start upgrading the new cloak. You can't just transfer over what you've done to the previous cloak to the new one. And so that really just caused you to stick with what you've been upgrading at the beginning. And that really sucks, because I ran across some cloaks that were much nicer than the one I had on my character, but I didn't want to trade it out because I didn't want to invest all the stat building I did for that cloak. Building stats on your items it's not as difficult, right? Because a lot of this stuff is out in the field, so you can go and collect it. But you've done all this collecting of this stuff and you upgraded and spent all these resources. You don't want to have to go and do it again for a new cloak. So that's something that they should be able to at least let you change out the design of your cloak. Not necessarily transfer it over. Just let me pick like a different look from all the different cloaks that I've gathered, right? That would make it easier. But anyway, regardless of that, I think this game was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I ended up finishing the game, beating it, and really enjoyed playing through it. So it was the surprise that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because I didn't think I was going to enjoy it at all. But what do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I'm not, I don't understand all the hate this game is getting either. Everybody is IGN hates on everything if they don't get paid, but IGN gave it a pretty low score. They gave it like a 6 out of 10 and stuff like that, which I think this game is better than that. It's probably not worth $70 to me, but no game is really worth $70. I'm still not over that sticker shock of going up $10 more, but I do like this game. I liked it a lot. I didn't play the demo. I try to not play demos of games that we're going to review, because I don't want to go into it with the preconceived notion of, is it going to be good or is it going to be bad? And And it was, all the reviews are basically hating on this thing, but it's fun. I mean, I wonder if these people aren't giving the game the time it needs. Because I'll be honest, the first, I don't even know, I'd probably almost say the first 5 hours of this game are just cutscene after cutscene after cutscene after cutscene, and building the story and building what's going on around you. And even when you get into Athia, which is when you get ported out of New York and you go back and you go into Athia, you're still barely getting to do any gameplay for like the first 2-3 hours you're in Athia. So the first hour or two that you're in New York and the first 3 hours you're in Athia, you don't get to do much. And when you do get to do something, like Nick said, it takes away from that control. You only get to do something, you're stuck in a building where you can only walk slow to look at this or do this. And the next thing you know, it releases you to do a little sprint to this next area. And you're like, oh, okay. So I would say 5 hours of this game is what it takes to get into it. Because it gets past all the story building, the character building. The story is, I wouldn't call it generic. It's very tween story, but it's got key aspects from other stories, and you'll find out as you play it. But it's a good game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I like the parkour magic. It's a different thing, right? It's parkour magic. And at first I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this parkour stuff, but man, it grows on you. The open world is massive. There is quick travel, but there's no like mounts or anything in the game. So you're running your happy ass from place to place to place, and the magic parkour really helps with that. I make 2 suggestions when you're going to play this game. Spend some time in the menu system to set the game up the way you want. Because there's nothing that drives me more bonkers than having to go up and loot every damn thing. So I turn on auto loot because I don't like to manually loot stuff. So, things that make a quality of life for you. You remap keys, things like that. And before you do your first major boss, I'm not talking about the dragon, I'm talking about something later, skip all the side crap. And I say that because once you get down and, you'll know what I'm talking about. Once you get down and finish the first boss, you gain some new abilities, and you can pretty much get to everything you need to get to. It'll reduce the amount of backtracking that you have to do in the game. I wish I would have done that, because once I got through the first boss, I'd spent probably, 6-7 hours doing all the side crap and spending my time slowly getting over everything. And then once I got new abilities, I'm like, shit, I could have done this at probably half the time with these abilities. So I would suggest beelining the first boss once you get into the open world, and skipping any outlier stuff. And what I mean is stuff that's outside of on your way to the boss. Because I went outside of my way to make sure I was clearing everything in every zone I was going through getting that first boss. And then I ended up having to backtrack anyway, because there's stuff you can't get to until you get certain abilities. So I would highly suggest that. So spend time going through the menus, making the character set up the way you want, because the controls can be a little funky. You'll get an ability called shimmy, and it really is kind of awkward the way that you have to run with parkour and then do the shimmy. So it's like a movement for my fingers that's unnatural. So you can remap that stuff. And I agree with Nick. My biggest complaint is with the armor. There's not enough variation. And what I mean by that is the only 3 things affect your looks. The necklace you're wearing, you could see it, the cloak you're wearing, and then the fingernails. Everything else has no bearing on it. And so I'm like, I want a little bit more RPG in that aspect, a little bit more, wearing wizard robes or whatever the hell, battle mage armor, something. I found the cloaks a little lackluster. I think from what I've seen so far, the early access or the pre-order cloak, which I didn't get because I didn't pre-order the damn game, looked the best out of all of them. And I really wish I would have got it. But I did the same thing Nick had. I found a cloak like second dungeon in. And so I pumped all my points into that. I pumped all my points into the very first necklace I got. And by the time I got something to look cooler, I'm like, I spent hundreds of these mats upgrading this thing. I am not going back for more mats because I like the way that one looks more. So I wore the ratty ass cloak and necklace I got in the beginning. And I'm like, well, this is dumb. So that's some complaints and things I need to fix. And as Nick said, I don't understand the holding control back from your character when they load. It's like a loading thing. It almost feels like you interact with something and it's got a little cutscene story. And then when the cutscene ends, you're just standing there and you're waiting. You're jiggling the stick to wait and see when she starts moving. You're like, okay, now I can move. So, but outside of that, I think it's a good game. It does not warrant the hate and the 5s and the 6s that it's getting. It's, it deserves more. But Shane, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I agree. I was expecting, just from initial, hearing around, Nick played the demo. I avoided it. I'll avoid most demos, unless it's a game I just know is going to be good. This one I was on the fence about. And it's a good game. It really is a good game overall. There's several reviews out there that I completely disagree with. This game is not perfect by any means, but my first thought in the first few hours of the game was, and this is for the old people out there, it had story-wise, it had a 90s kind of a feel to it, never-ending story, Alice in Wonderland kind of thing. And I enjoyed that. I enjoy the story because of that, because I kind of grew up on those types of fantasy adventure things, Labyrinth, stuff like that. Just a regular person gets drawn into this awesome, cool, magical world and then, murders everything around them. I've always wanted that growing up. And, this game lets me kind of live that. I think the story is good. I think characters are good. I think the voice acting is really good on it. The combat, my biggest complaint is I do not like the magic, and I didn't change the button configuration on it because I'd already been playing for so long. I just sucked it up and dealt with it. But I don't like the magic command being on the right trigger. It didn't feel right. Pat, you said treat it like a shooter, but I don't know. I just didn't like the way it felt. I did tweak the controls because you can adjust the trigger tensions and stuff like that. So I fixed that. It made it easier to play, but I just don't like the trigger for the magic. Everything else worked fine for the most part. And I grew up, Nick, the game runs much better when you're playing on performance. I played with it a little bit at the beginning. And it just runs so much better. Graphically, Nick, no, I would have to disagree. I don't know. Me and Pat talked about this, and I do agree. It does seem to look better the further you play on, but the graphics designs are fine. It's the color palettes are kind of bland to me. There's certain things that are very nice, like some of the cloaks and stuff are really nice. And some of the, character models, they're kind of out there, but most of the stuff in the world just, even things that are supposed to be shiny just didn't have a shiny feel to it. That kind of bothered me.
I say you have to play further because that's the whole point of the story, is that it becomes more vibrant the more you play and the more you get into it, and the more colors are introduced into the world, because that's kind of the whole point of it. And I'm trying not to give anything away, because if I start talking about how you add color to the world and stuff, it starts giving away too much. This isn't a spoiler episode, but it is a very dull colored scheme until you get away from the first couple of starting areas, and then it starts getting more vibrant and stuff like that.
I'm quite a ways in, and I can see that.
Kill the second main boss.
Okay, I'm actually on my way to that one. But I like the game. I do. I think what helped is going into it with no hopes or expectations. It gave it a clean plate for me to judge it on, and I enjoy it. The voice acting's good. The character designs are good. Fix the teeth, though. I don't care what any of these guys say. Those teeth in this game are effed up. The certain character at the very beginning of the game, I won't say it, but like in the first 2 minutes, she could eat corn on the cob through a barbed wire fence. I'm telling you,
maybe she's supposed to be that way.
No, because half the village has it too. It's supposed to be. Were they all inbred?
Probably.
No offense. But I really like the game. It, like Pat's right though. It starts off pretty slow. Once you hit the open world stuff and you start to explore, the very first thing I did was I saw something big and fluffy over there. When I got to the first part of the open world, like, what's that? I'm gonna go touch it. And it was a giant. I won't say what it was. They call them lessers, different versions. And I went over and I touched it, and it got hung up in a tree, and I violated it. And then I found another one, hoping I could do the same thing, and it didn't happen. I got tore open. It was hilarious because I went in there. I'm gonna get you too. Nope. It took off, tore me up, and then I think it laughed at me for a minute. But this game has things like that I really enjoy. I enjoyed the dungeons in this game. I think they're nothing. There's nothing really fancy about them, but they're short enough and they're interesting enough to go in and do them and enjoy it, and get out. That's what I like. There's not hours of time spent in there. You spend hours of your time just wandering around and climbing up things and just finding all this loot and materials and everything. And it's just, there's a bunch of stuff to do. There really is, at least to find. I wouldn't say to do. But I spent most of my time from chapter 5 to 6 just running around finding things. And that's what you can do in this game. So you definitely get your time out of it. For that $70 should be $60, but it's a well-worthy game. I'm happy I played it. I think there's some things that could be fixed for the sequel, but it definitely deserves better reviews than some people like IGN are giving it. So, but
yeah,
if you don't pay, you don't play.
Yeah. I mean, the game has a 15, 16-hour time limit if you beeline the story. If you do some of the side stuff, which should tell you it's a little bit too full of some side stuff.
Yeah.
It's 50 to 60 hours. So a little too much side stuff because you can't freaking turn a corner without running into something extra to do every zone. And then it does get a little repetitive. I mean, but that's the whole same thing with the Ubisoft formula too that I have problems with. It gets overwhelming. There's like every zone has a ruin to explore, which is the same concept. And I'm not going to go over the concept because you can play it if you want to play it. But I let Nick taint my expectations game. I'm like, I kind of like what Nick likes, and Nick doesn't like the demo, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to hate this damn game. And I played it, and I was like, what the hell did Nick not like? And so we got to talking about the demo, and Nick explained why the demo was so bad, and I let him kind of go into those details. And I think that's where everybody's coming from, is they played the demo, and the demo was, and I can understand once you hear why everybody hated it, because this game has a lot going on for it. And if you get dropped in the middle of it, it's not going to be that great. So,
they could have streamlined a lot of that filler out and kept that solid 15, 16 hours just as it was, with just, really decent dialogue and storytelling and all that.
I'd have to ding at some points if it was only a 15-hour long game, even with all the side crap.
Well, for a $70,
$70 price point, I'd be like 15 minutes and that's everything. That's a $30 game.
But a solid story in a game, really, to me, that's what I want out of a game. A game especially like this needs a solid story, and they did a pretty damn good job.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Nick, what was wrong with the demo?
Yeah, explain that so nobody plays it.
For me, and I think the consensus is pretty the same online, is the demo. One is the build that they put out for the demo was an older build. Luminous Productions did come out and say something about that. That was like a last summer build or something like that. So it was an older build of the game. Also, they drop you get a lot of magic abilities in this game. And this game drops you about not halfway through, but I mean like pretty far into the game. Because I went to I think it's on your way to the second or third boss. I think the second boss or the third boss. There's a bridge that you go across, and that's where the game dumps you right at the start of that demo, which is pretty far into it. So without learning the game from the beginning and slowly getting introduced to the magic and how everything works, it's very overwhelming to have a bunch of spells and have no clue how anything works and how all of it works together. It was very overwhelming. And I think that's what may have thrown people off, especially being an older build. It was probably full of bugs and things that they don't have in there today. But yeah, I mean, it was just too much. But this game does a really good job of, the game itself does a really good job of slowly introducing you to the magic and how magic works and how the different abilities work, your support magic. You have your main magic, you have your support magic, and then you have this high damage magic, your surge magic. And then so it slowly teaches you how to use all that stuff and how to switch between those and switch your magic and stuff like that. So it does a really good job of slowly getting you familiar with all the button presses and what your different magic does. And I think that just helps. So, if you play the demo and you're like, I didn't really care for the demo, you might like the game because the game's a little bit slower paced in introducing you to that stuff, which I think helps the player. But I agree with you guys. I think the game is really good. They did a really good job with lore too. There's a lot of lore in this game, a lot of lore to be found, and they did a really good job of explaining within the lore about Athia, before you get there, like how it was before and after certain events happen and stuff like that. So it does a really good job of kind of giving the player, if you want to read the lore pieces, because they are pieces you pick up. You do learn some of the lore through the story, but a lot of it's through lore pieces that you pick up. But if you want to read it, you kind of get an idea of how each city, because there's more than one city, even though that, in the game you go to just a city, right? But there were other cities that had people in them, and it talks to you in the lore about how those people lived there and how things were there and stuff like that. So it's very interesting stuff. So they did a really good job of putting a lot into the lore of the game, if you want to read that stuff.
Yeah, there's a ton going on in this game. So they definitely gave you enough to do and find and all that. I could have used a little bit of a streamline, but I think I'm just to that point where I'm about done with open world stuff. It's just, it takes up a lot of time, and a lot of the open worlds anymore aren't really good games. They're not good story games, and I like a good story. So, but I think we can all agree this game is definitely better than a lot of reviews are getting it, at least in our opinions. It still should be a $60 game max. We all definitely agree on that as well. You guys got anything else you'd like to say about the Forspoken? All right. So they're all spokenless now. All right. Well, you made it to the end. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, you share, subscribe. If you played Forspoken, let us know what you think. Tell us if you agree, disagree, what you like, what you don't like. Anything that you want to tell us. If you have any thoughts or opinions on us and our thoughts and opinions, let us know too. But until next time, see ya.